I made bread today. It turned out better than I expected. Crispy on the outside and super soft on the inside. Here's what I did. I got me some yeast, a packet of oatmeal, that's my fun little twist here, a bowl of some warm water, and a bunch of flour. There's a cup and a half of water in here, and in goes a packet of active dry yeast. I'll just give that a little stir to mix it in. Then I sift in the sugar and other powdery contents of the strawberries and cream oatmeal packet. Some of the oats I'll mix in later. The rest I'll put on the top of the bread. Good, the yeast is alive. A quick Google search said you want 5 parts flour to 3 parts water, so using that as a guideline, I expect to add about 2.5 cups of flour to this and 1.5 cups of water. First I put in a 1/4 cup of whole wheat flour, which is all I'll use. Then I add 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour and realized that a whisk would work better. Then I add another 1/2 cup of AP to bring the total to 1.25 cups. Add another 2 halves and switch back to the spoon. Then finally add another 1/4 cup of AP so that there are 2.5 cups of flour in here. At this point I decided to pick out the strawberry pieces from the oatmeal and add them in just because that's what I felt like doing. It's been about 2 hours. I only waited so long because I got busy. Before I start kneading this, I figured it'd be a good time to put some of the oats in. While absorbing information about bread making on YouTube, someone suggested using wet hands, not floured hands, for kneading, so I'm going to give that a try. I can already tell this is going to be messy. I just kind of scoop it up and slam it down on itself for the next 3.5 minutes, changing the angle of the bowl so the dough on the bottom kind of rolls around down there. I feel like this needs a little more flour, so here goes another 1/2 cup. Then I think, maybe that's too much. So I initially make a point of not mixing it all in. I just kind of work it enough to get a little bit of the flour to stick to it as I stretch it out. As I continue to toss it around like this, most of the flour ends up working its way in, and it appears, in my non-expert opinion, to not have too much flour mixed in. I struggle to get this mess off my hands and let it sit for another ½ hour. I haven't dabbled in bread making a ton, but this is the stickiest I've ever let a dough get to be. Not quite sure how to work with this stuff. Do I even need to be doing anything right now? I'm trying to fold it here, halfway off camera. That's embarrassing. Here's a clip of my cat instead. It smells ever so faintly of strawberries. The dough, not the cat. After I work it in like that for a few more minutes, I transfer it to a lightly oiled cast iron pan and turn my oven to 500 Fahrenheit, as high as it'll go. It'll take a while to get up to temp, so I suppose that'll be enough time to get it to rise up again. Looks real sad, but keep the faith. I'm just going to spray that with water to help the rest of the oatmeal adhere and possibly generate extra steam, which I guess is important in doing some chemistry physics shenanigans to the surface of the bread to give it a crust or something. Steam is important in bread making, that's all I know. With the oven approaching 500, I turn the burner on for a minute or so. I feel like I've seen this suggested at least a couple times on all the YouTubes that I've watched. I don't think any of them did this though. Again, an attempt to create more steam, possibly unnecessary as there's water in the dough. What will for sure help hold steam in is a nice solid lid, which I don't have, so this aluminum foil will have to do. I'll go ahead and stick this in the oven for 20 minutes. I pull it out and I think it looks promising. It's starting to get a little color. I put it back in, uncovered for another 15 minutes, but before I close the door, I spray a bunch of distilled water in there, which I don't know if that's a good idea, so I'm not going to recommend that you do that. Go with a more tried and true method of putting a pan of hot water in there. The 15 minutes are up, so let's see how this turned out. It looks and feels like some sort of bread. I gave it a few minutes to cool off, by the way. The top has a decent crust on it, and the bottom is nice and thick and crispy, almost cracker-like. Listen to this. I think heating the pan before putting it in the oven helped. This might be the best texture I've ever gotten out of homemade bread. Nice crispy outside and an almost pillow-like inside. By the way, the strawberry flavor in the oatmeal is really subtle, and I don't think the oatmeal packet had a huge effect on how this turned out. Please correct me if you think that's false. The oats on top are a nice touch though. This encourages me to do more things with bread. You should too. Give this a try. Or just try making some basic bread if that's something you haven't done. It's easier than it looks.